In this video, I'm going to show you how I built this corner flower garden using concrete retaining wall blocks for virtually nothing. And I'm showing you the beginning picture first because I want to show you that, and then we'll reverse engineer how I put it together and some of the techniques that I used. So the first challenge that we had when I was building this in the corner was the wood fence to begin with. So what I did was I went to Lowe's and we picked up the cheapest board that I could find that was 4x8 sheet. I had them rip it in half. I dug that out along the base of the edge of the fence and screwed it to the edge of the fence. And I leveled the top of that board to the height of the dirt that I was going for. Now, in the end, what I'd like to do is come back and raise my fence up and build a concrete retaining wall on the back side as well, but I don't have enough material for that today. So when I built this is kind of my temporary solution for a nice appearance, and in the end you'll get to see how it looks. Now the next step is to go along and to skin off the dirt to a level of where you'll be putting your block. Now, because we're not spending any extra money, we're not buying sand to set our block into, so it's critical that we cut it out to the exact the perfect height, and that way when we set our blocks in, we're not allowing it to settle. Now remember to grab your level, check your level vertically and horizontally, if you will, or front to back and side to side, and then prepare using crumbling up the dirt with your hands and getting as smooth of a surface as what you can before setting your block in. So when you set your block in, you're almost perfect. You almost have this built perfectly. Now I'm fast forwarding and jumping through some of these frames quickly, but remember, as you're setting your blocks in, to grab your level and check your level side to side and front to back to make sure that you're not climbing a hill or dropping off as you're building your wall from one side to the other. And now remember, if we were doing this on a construction site, we might have a transit or a laser site or a laser, heck, even GPS to make sure we're building this thing correctly. But since we're doing this in our backyard with minimal tools at a low cost, your little 2-foot level will work fine. But make sure you're getting that bubble is set in between the lines as you're building across. Otherwise, you'll end up 2 or 3 inches lower on one side than you were on the other. Now you see here, I noticed that I'm slowly dropping off, and I didn't quite skim out my dirt properly, and so I'm flipping the block up just a bit and throwing a little loose dirt under it, and then I'll pack it down slightly just by stomping my foot on top of it, and that'll help us to put this in properly. And once it's in place, it's a fairly quick process to go and just drop the blocks in one right after another on top. Now you'll notice that not all of these blocks are the same. I put very similar blocks on the bottom and very similar blocks on the top row, and my reason for doing that is the bottom is mostly covered with dirt, and they're a reddish tint color, and the top is a lighter concrete non-stained color, and later on we'll come back through and maybe stain that with a concrete stain, and that'll be another do-it-yourself project that we can do a video on.
In continuing with our theme at building a retaining wall at the lowest possible cost to the homeowner, and with a do-it-yourself perspective, we soon realized that mortar is extremely expensive. Anchoring material that normally goes in between these holes to anchor all the blocks together is highly expensive. And if we're not building a 6-foot tall retaining wall to hold back a lot of weight, we soon come up with other solutions. One of those solutions to help anchor these blocks in place is just filling these holes with with dirt, and you want to try to find the least I don't know, the poorest quality dirt that you can find. A lot of clay, a little bit sandy is fine, but with the least amount of organic material. And I've run out of that dirt. All I have is the organic dirt, the quality topsoil and organic material filled dirt that I brought in today. And so that's what I have to use. The technique for filling this up is to fill these holes up from the top, and this hole continues all the way down in between the blocks below it. So go ahead and fill this up until it's overflowing, and then to tamp it down with an object that fits down in between. And this is a I don't know, a 3/4 inch PVC pipe that I just put duct tape on the end to cover it up, and you get an extremely decent amount of down pressure, or pounds per square inch, when you have a small object like this. And it's a lot better than what it would be if you would put something in here that just barely fit in this hole. Now, if you live in the southern states where you don't get a very hard freeze every year, then this is a fine option to go with. Now, if you live up north where you freeze quite a lot, and where you have a large heave of the ground each winter, then you probably would want to drain this a little bit better. And what I mean by that is to fill this up with a pea gravel or an aggregate material that would drain the water out of it, which would allow it to not heave up and down when the water inside freezes. The water that gets trapped in there freezes. But we don't have that problem here in the south. We get a freeze, but gosh, I'd really be surprised if the center of these blocks would ever get cold enough to freeze, just because of the thermal mass of them in the first place. So you continue to pack this down until you get it a couple inches from the top, and that's fine. The goal of this is to lock the block above into the blocks below it.
I want to make sure I add that since I don't have a saw that I can cut this block with, I left the bottom row out a half a block away from the fence, and then I'm filling that gap with dirt. Now, a little trick to let you know when you're filling this in with dirt is you can fill it in about 1 to 2 inches at a time, and then pack it down with your heel and literally stomp it as hard as you can. And in doing so, you will actually be able to achieve the same level of compaction per square inch as what you might be able to do if you were to rent a packing tool or a whacker, or one of those square 1 foot by 1 foot packing pads, and so you can actually achieve quite a lot of compaction just with your heel. But it may hurt your knees, so if you have fragile knees or hip joints, please just do it with caution. And then again, we repeat the steps, and we come back through and fill in those last few holes again to lock the top block into the block below it. And we're finishing up. So it's very simple, and the way that I laid this out was to keep me from having to cut these blocks at all. And then on the end corners here at the far ends, I can cover up the little gap from the top block below the top block, just with some rock and maybe even some flowers. So there you have it. I hope you learned something from this.
If you found this video to be helpful, informative, or otherwise entertaining, don't forget to subscribe. And remember to smile for a stranger today. You'll both be glad you did.